I saw you with your phones out. That's totally cool with us. We love attention. Just hashtag Alchemist movement for us, okay? Thank you. How are you guys doing? So you may have noticed something a little different on my body. Had a little postpartum breakdown, possibly a breakthrough. Just shave my head. Just get it off of me. Y'all, there was a warrior under here the whole time. She's been in there. So tonight's theme is the body, and I had like a million different things I wanted to talk about, and I couldn't put it all in one 10-minute, 15-minute sermon, so I had to make some choices, and I decided to talk about something that was really bothering me. There's very few things I hate in this world, y'all, and one of those things is the phrase TMI. TMI. So TMI stands for too much information, and it's usually used when someone is sharing something about themselves, usually something about their bodies. Maybe a young girl says, oh, I'm having cramps because I'm getting my period, or a man shares that he's experiencing some dysfunction in the bedroom, or an older woman shares that she's getting hot because she's going through menopause, and someone goes, whoa, TMI. And I hate that. It's usually the same type of person who, in a group of full of people, go, oh, now it just got awkward. Same type of person. This is really important, and I'm delivering it kind of humorously, but this is really important, especially because Professor Daylover's sermon on semiology. We are programming ourselves every time we do something like that. So if I share something with you about my body and then you say TMI, what you're sending the message to me is that my body should not be talked about. This is the royal you, by the way, not just you, and I do it too. We are programming each other when we say things like that. And then we take pieces of our culture and we shove them into a closet of silence. And then things like our bodies become void. They have negative meanings associated with them. And now doctors wonder why we lie to them during checkups. Because I've been programmed when you ask me a question about my body that I should not tell the truth. Whoa, TMI. Is that even possible for too much information? Does that exist? For all of us who are out there going, I want clarity, I want knowledge, but yet we're saying that some things are, whoa, too much information, and yet the body is probably the most natural thing on the planet. It's probably the thing that we should have the most knowledge about. We have it every day. I spend a little bit of time every day outside of my body, probably too much, but for the most part, I have my body every day. And yet I'm out seeking knowledge other places because I haven't been shamed about those other places. And this is where our cultural disembodiment in America is happening. It starts in something as simple as the phrase TMI. Now, in the last year, I've done some really powerful sermons here at Alchemist Theater. In October, I talked about death culture, something else we keep in the closet of silence. I talked about the need for students in middle schools and high schools to have access to quality-free menstrual products, and then we did a pad drive and raised 13,000 pads for the city of Reno. And I actually talked about both of those things in the same sermon, and if you're wondering how those two things go together, check out my sermon on alchemistmovement.org. That was in October. And then last month, I talked about birth culture, kind of bringing it full circle from the death culture, and I talked about the way that women are pressured into choices in birth, that they're kept from knowledge about their bodies, and how that affects their birth experience, and how that affects the oppression of women in America, because we have the worst infant and maternal death rate in a developed country. Yes, we do. So, I wouldn't say that I enjoy making people uncomfortable. I just feel like my higher power is calling me to talk about things that other people aren't talking about. Actually, a lot of people are talking about it, but maybe not all of us are trained to listen, mostly because we're not trained to sit in the discomfort. When something feels comfortable, we go, whoa, too much info, and we shut down, and that's okay. That's totally okay, because it has to be your choice to examine the cultural programming coming into you and decide, do I like this? Does this fit my values? Or would I like to reprogram myself? So, tonight, I am attempting to continue a mission I've called #normalize the normal. Seems like something that wouldn't need to be done. Do we really need to normalize the normal? We do. Because women are being oppressed in our culture in all the ways I've already talked about. And if we can strive to normalize the normal, we can help to raise up the women for all over the world. So, I've been called tonight to talk about my battle with breastfeeding my 11-week-old baby. So I talked a little bit about this in February, but at the time, it was really scary. I was 17 days in by the time I gave that sermon, and everything was happening, and I was pretty much breastfeeding around the clock to try to make this happen. And I then went into silence and haven't really told anyone what happened after that. So tonight I'm going to come out of that closet. Somewhere in the world right now at a restaurant is a woman being shamed by another woman for bottle feeding her baby. Don't you know that breast is best? Don't you know that babies hate formula? Don't you know that they're going to be way healthier if you just breastfed them? On the opposite side of that restaurant is a woman being shamed by a man for attempting to breastfeed her baby in public. Don't you know that women should hide their bodies? Don't you know that that's disgusting and not normal at all? Don't you know that breasts are for sexual purposes and not for the rest of us? And somewhere in that same city, not at the restaurant, is a woman stuck at home attached to a breast pump for 12 hours a day because she can't get enough milk for her baby. That was me. So I did all of the things. Before you try to help me, I did all of the things. I took the fenugreek, and then I stopped taking the fenugreek because it turned out that if you take too much fenugreek, it can actually diminish your milk supply. Then I started pumping, and then I stopped pumping because people told me, no, the baby needs to be on the breast, but then my baby started losing weight and getting dehydrated because it wasn't getting enough of my breast. And then people made me lactation cookies, and then I started gaining weight because I was eating too many cookies, but damn, they were good. My husband ate them too, and we needed a double supply. And then I went to a lactation consultant who looked at my breasts and said, the shape of your breasts actually are a sign that you may not have enough glandular tissue to produce, but you should still try, because if you stop trying and you fail, you might beat yourself up forever that you didn't breastfeed your baby. And so I kept trying. And so I breastfed around the clock, and then someone told me that if you're sleep deprived, you won't be able to produce milk. So then I pumped all day and breastfed as much as I could, and then my husband took the overnight feeding so that I could try to get 4 hours of sleep at a time. Then I went back to the lactation consultant, something that we were privileged to do because my husband has a job that comes with insurance. For the first time in our lives, he is 37 years old, and we finally have insurance, just in time for the baby. And I went to this lactation consultant who cost $250 an hour without the insurance. And she finally said, I'm sorry, you have something called tubular breasts. And my husband went, all right, tubular breasts. But it was actually talking about the shape of my breast, which explains why my entire prepubescent life, I hated my body. Because I watched my friends around me get their boobs, and I realized that mine just didn't look the same. And I searched and searched and searched online, and then I found other women with the same condition, and we all had the same thing in common. We hated our bodies for most of our lives because it didn't look like everyone else's body. But then I got the answer. It wasn't me. It wasn't that I wasn't taking enough fenugreek, or I was sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, and I didn't leave the baby on the breast long enough. It turned out I just couldn't make enough milk. I can produce about 1 ounce every 4 hours. And here I was my whole life thinking, breastfeeding, that's easy. The baby comes out, you put him on the breast, but all the mamas in here will tell you, nope. Clap if you had issues breastfeeding. Clap if you suffered silently with your issues with breastfeeding. Yeah, because women don't talk about our bodies. And we don't talk about our failures. When our bodies fail us to feed our babies, and there's this pressure to feed them with our milk, we don't talk about it. So we suffer in silence, and that's why I'm here tonight. But it's not just mamas who can't make enough milk that may not be able to breastfeed their baby. Women who are survivors of sexual violence may choose to not breastfeed their babies. There's all kinds of women. Adoptive mothers can't breastfeed their babies. And yet we put all of this pressure on women to use their bodies to feed their babies because, scientifically, yes, it is best and it is what I've dreamed of my whole life. But sometimes our bodies fail us. They just do. Some women fail to get pregnant because their bodies won't allow it, or maybe their partner's body won't allow it, or maybe they don't have a male partner to impregnate them. There's all kinds of ways that our bodies fail us, and no mamas have it easy. And then our babies come out and our bodies fail us in a whole nother way that I don't want to talk about tonight. But hashtag normalize the norm, okay? And it's so strange to me, this position that we're putting women in where we want them to breastfeed, but whoa, put your boob away, okay? I have to tell you, when my baby came out and I went through this whole breastfeeding journey, it was like, I didn't care anymore. Like, people are like, whoa, you're breastfeeding in public. And I'm like, what? What day is it? Where am I? I'm not at home? Sorry, I haven't slept in a minute. Would you like to breastfeed my baby? Oh, okay. Whoops. Why are we doing this to women? This doesn't fit here. Gene, it doesn't, you know what, Gene, sometimes things don't fit, and without the consent of the microphone stand, I'm not gonna force it in there. Let this be a lesson in consent, gentlemen. Gentlemen. That wasn't just directed at the teenagers, and I didn't mean it to be as mean. I meant it to be very like, hey. Thanks, Bass Joe.
Who this baby?
Who this baby?
This is Azzy.
Okay, I'm still here, you guys. Okay. So, I'm terrified right now. Shout out to all the mamas in the back who brought their babies tonight. So I went to the doctor for the first time with this idea that my body was failing me. And I talked to my pediatrician and I started to cry. And he said, why do you think your body's failing you? And I said, because I can't provide all the food my baby needs. And he said, you may not be able to provide him 100% of what he needs, but you give him 100% of what you have. And once I surrendered to the way that my body had failed me, and I alchemized that failure away into opportunity to see and accept the body that I had, to understand that this is what was happening and that it was okay, a lot of miracles began to happen. First of all, I got way more sleep because Joe feeds the baby. Yeah, Joe. We also get milk from about 4 different mothers, 2 of whom pump for me on a weekly basis. My baby has been wet nursed by 2 of my tribe sisters, and I recognized that my baby was making a community. He needed my breast to be tubular so that I would seek help, and probably so that I would give this sermon. Because our women's bodies are not failures, they are what they are. And we need to start asking for help. And we need to start seeing the way that our bodies are perfect, because they are our vessels. We need to begin to alchemize the messages, the semiology that we're sending ourselves and each other. What culture are we creating, and do we want a new one? And that was it. That's about all he gets. This is his third sermon at 10 weeks old, and he's brilliant. So, oh, I get a little jealous because, like, sometimes one of my friends with, like, really great boobs will be holding them. He's like, Mom, check these out. These are great. Let me get some of these. All right. Look at this. He's just a little turkey. I need to pass him off now. Okay. You hand him to Chris. Be very careful. You're on a step. What did we talk about consent, Gene? All right, finishing up here. So, I want to get away from TMI culture because TMI culture shuts us into these little black closets that we can't get out of, and it programs us to hate our bodies. We begin to disembody from ourselves and from our culture. And so instead of TMI, my friends, I present to you tonight LRL, which is Love Real Life. Love Real Life. This is the new programming I'm offering to you tonight, and for just one easy payment of $15, I made 2 shirts. And you can fight for them in the lobby after the show. So next time you feel yourself cringing away from a TMI situation, see if you can move into a space where you want to normalize the normal. And then offer love. Because my boobs may not be perfect in certain definitions, but they are real, and this is real life. Thank you. All right. Thank you guys so much. I love my boobs. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.